everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about Falling for a Devoted Cowgirl by Karen Baney. So, this one is contemporary romance, and as you've guessed by the title, it's a Western cowboy romance. It's also Christian fiction, and it's book 6 in Karen Baney's Vargas Ranch series. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, I read book 1 and loved it and read it very quickly. And I then bought books 2, 3, 4, and 5 that I haven't had a chance to read yet. And then when Karen offered the opportunity to read book 6, I took that and said, yes, that would be lovely. Thank you. And Karen's also offered a giveaway of the book, which I'll talk about at the end. So many thanks to Karen for providing the advanced reader copy. And I'll add my usual disclaimer that all the opinions that I talk about in this episode are completely my own. So let's talk about the book. Falling for a Devoted Cowgirl by Karen Baney is set in Arizona, and the story also takes us to New Mexico. So there are quite a few romance tropes in this one. Obviously, it's a cowboy western romance, and we have the ranch setting with horses, which I love. It's also a friends to more romance. There's unrequited love in the story. We have the best friend's cousin trope as well. And there's an age gap with the hero being 10 years older than our leading lady. And this one is a secret baby story, but it's a secret baby with a twist, which I'll get into a bit further into the episode, and a single dad romance. So the first line for this one is this, or the first two lines, I should say. Aidan Franco. Aidan heard the unfamiliar man's voice behind him. Now, the man who he's heard talking is actually a lawyer, and we're in the stables at the Vargas Ranch where Aidan is working, and I'll get back to who this lawyer is in a minute. So Aidan is our hero. He's a cowboy. He's 35 years old. So he's a three-time world champion pro bull rider. And 10 years ago, after he retired from that, he moved to the Vargas Ranch and has worked there, and he lives on the ranch as well. So he's single and he's been ignoring his feelings for Solana because she's a bit younger than him by 10 years and he thinks he's too old for her. But anyway, let's talk about Solana. So she's our leading lady. So she's 25 years old. She's part of the Vargas family and she works at the family ranch at the front desk of their resort guest area. And that's where she comes across Aidan because he does tours for the guests and does different things. And so she has had a teen crush on Aidan since he was the rodeo hero when she was younger. And then over time, that crush has developed into something more. And when she started working on the front desk 5 or 6 years ago, she came into contact with Aidan more at work. And he also formed a friendship with her cousin. So they kind of move in the same social circles and have become good friends. But he's pretty much put her in the friend zone and she's quite frustrated about that. So at the start of the story, this lawyer has turned up and Aidan discovers that there's a 12-year-old boy by the name of Jet who he's been listed on the birth certificate as the father. So Jet's mother was a good friend of his when they were on the circuit. She was a barrel rider. And he's a little bit confused because he doesn't recall how it could be possible for him to be Jet's father. But anyway, he keeps moving forward with all of this and takes responsibility for Jet. And then Solana comes along and volunteers to help him by going back with him and Jet to New Mexico to sort out what's going on with Jet's former home with his mum and all the things that happen with estates and work out what to do with the horses and things like that. So that's where the story starts. So it's quite complicated in terms of there's quite a few problems in this one. So Aidan is just throwing for a six. The last thing he expected was to have a 12-year-old son, and the circumstances are unusual, and also it's also unusual that he didn't know that Jet existed. So there's a whole lot of questions that go around that. And that's one of Jet's questions that he has, is that he's struggling with grief. He's lost his mum and he's just finding it really tough to discover that he has this father who hasn't bothered to contact him for all this time as well. So there's a lot of problems there. And then we have Solana, who's been struggling with her unrequited love and feeling quite frustrated that she keeps getting friend zoned by Aiden, but at the same time, she's a very good friend to him and she's a very caring and supportive person. And so she wants to do what she can to actually help and support both Aiden and Jet. So off they go on a road trip to New Mexico. So this road trip is really the catalyst for what kicks off the romance between them as well. And it really was that point of change where Aiden's head moves into a completely different space because out of nowhere, he's suddenly parenting a 12-year-old, which is so foreign to him as well, and not what he expected to be happening in his life. And so, my favorite book quote from this one is this: just because he couldn't feel God's presence didn't mean he wasn't working in his life. And trusting God and trusting in God's plan was a very big theme in this book and also in the series. And waiting on God's timing, Solana has been struggling with that. And now Aiden really has a lot of big decisions to make in terms of what's happening with Jet, and really is also waiting on God's timing as well and praying and trying to work out what to do. So the story, I would describe it as having strong faith elements because the characters are both Christians. They've been Christians for a long time, and they really do pray and turn to God and seek his wisdom when they're making decisions, and they live their faith as well. And it was very interesting seeing how the secret baby reveal played out in the story. I'm not going to say any more because I really don't want to give away the twist. But what I really appreciated was how the community of people around Aiden and Jet came to the party and really supported them in what was a really difficult time, particularly with Jet struggling with the grief and loss of his beloved mother. We've also, what did I love about this story? I'm getting myself back on track now. So I absolutely loved the twist with the secret baby. And I am fussy with secret baby stories, but in this book, it was very logical and very plausible the way that everything panned out. And I love the characters and I understood them and I was really cheering for them, particularly for Solana and Aiden to really work out the timing of how to get their romance on track and to work out how they can become a family with Jet. It was just lovely to see all that play out in the story. And the side characters were delightful. The Western setting on the ranch was great. And it was a fast moving story. So it's a short novel. So it's probably just over 200 pages. So you start chapter one and you've got the action happening pretty much from the get go. And it was just so fun traveling with these characters in the story. I just loved it and loved seeing how everything worked out for them. So, in terms of the impact on me, it was a fast read. I would have read this one within 24 hours. And book one was the same. I read that one very quickly as well. And it really did put a smile on my face. In terms of trigger warnings, there are a couple of sensitive issues that do get raised in the story and obviously with the circumstances with Jet's mother. I mean, it's a heartbreaking situation for a mother, her single mum in her mid-30s to pass away from cancer and her 12-year-old son to have to watch her walk that journey. There was a lot of heartbreaking things that came up that's connected to all that as well. So I wouldn't actually give any trigger warnings other than to say that there are some sensitive topics that get raised, but they're all connected to backstory or connected to minor characters. There's nothing that you actually see on stage that would be a problem from my perspective. There's just more that what's happened in the past and the characters sort of unpacking the events of what led up to Jet coming into the lives of Solana and Aiden is probably whether there's some sensitivities around that. But anyway, so it's part of a series, but romance series, even though they are connected by families and their siblings and cousins, and you meet all the other couples from the previous books, there really aren't any major spoilers unless you're taking notes and paying really close attention to all the names. because we know in a romance that the couple are going to get together, and the fun of the romance is how they get together. But I would love to go back to book one and do a nice binge read on this series because it's just such a lovely story world. And I just really enjoy visiting Vargas Ranch with the characters. So, in summary, I would recommend Falling for a Devoted Cowgirl to readers who like cowboy Western romances. If you like the ranch setting and horses and all that kind of thing, you'll love this one. If you like books that have very strong families and large extended families and families that support each other, you'll like this one. If you like the best friend cousin trope, which is similar to the best friend's brother, then you'll like this one because there's that inherent connection between the characters. If you like Friends to More, then this definitely is a big tick for that. And unrequited love goes with the Friends to More trope often as well. And I loved how all that was resolved in the story. Now, if you like secret baby romances that may not be as they appear, so initially you start with a secret baby, but that's not necessarily where everything lands in terms of how the story unpacks. So I really appreciated that aspect of the story. So if you like secret babies that have a twist, then you'll like this one. If you enjoy reading short novels, short contemporary romance novels that are in a series where you can really learn a lot about the people and the setting and get to visit with characters from previous books as well, then you'll like this one. And if you like your contemporary romances that have strong faith elements where you have the characters drawing on their faith and turning to God and praying when circumstances are difficult, then you'll love this one. Thanks for joining me today. Does Falling for a Devoted Cowgirl sound like a book that you'd like to read? Or have you read it? Or have you read other books in Karen Baney's Vargas Ranch series? What did you think? You can let me know. If you're listening on the podcast, you can send me a text via a link in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like the episode and leave a comment at YouTube. You can also contact me via email at the contact form at my website at narelleatkins.com. Please subscribe if you've enjoyed listening to this episode, and then you can subscribe at your favorite podcasting app, you can subscribe at YouTube, and then you won't miss an episode because you'll get notified. All the links that I've mentioned for the books are in the show notes. Now, the giveaway. So, Karen is kindly giving away a signed by the author copy, a paperback, for a reader who has a US mailing address. And if you live outside the US, you can still enter the giveaway to win an ebook. And the link for the giveaway and all the information will be in the show notes as well. And the closing date will be the 22nd of April, which is US West Coast time zone as well. So don't forget to check out the giveaway because it's a lovely book and it's a very pretty cover. So it's always nice to have paperbacks if you like reading in print rather than ebooks because I like reading both. So thanks again for tuning in and see you next time.